is a new vocabulary being spouted by the political elites, such as the World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund, that troubles me greatly. The wealth of our nations has been built on the back of shareholder capitalism. The job of a company is quite simple: to maximize profits for the benefit of its owners, the shareholders. The new mantra is stakeholder capitalism, which at first sounds like the usual woke corporate speak that fills company annual reports with the requisite amount of virtue signaling. But dig deeper, and I believe it's a shift that puts us on a slippery slope.
There is nothing wrong with your screen. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling the messaging in this transmission. We will tell you the topics you may speak about. We will remove any speech we deem unfit. We will identify and protect you from all that is evil. You need only put your full trust in us. We are the government, and we are here to help.
Okay, folks, so I'm coming on solo today. Jack was with me earlier. We were trying that other software, the same one that was a disaster before, and we ended up just throwing it out and going back to our old software because it's frustrating. And after I set it forward for an hour because I walked away, banged my head against the wall like 30 times, and got myself together and came back to do it again. So that's that. My apologies to anyone who was waiting for that stream and did not get it. I know that's the second time we did it. We basically moved to a new software, and as a result, just did not get it. It was failing to connect. We couldn't get all the streams going. We are now live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. So welcome, everybody. Today, we're talking about this stakeholder capitalism. So I don't have all the features that I originally had planned in the OBS system, but I do have the videos and necessary interviews I want you to see. So what is stakeholder capitalism? Well, that gentleman was about to explain it before the government cut him off in the intro video, but it is a slippery slope. And here's the thing. And Klaus Schwab, if you're not aware of who Klaus Schwab is, he is the president and founder of the World Economic Forum. They've been around for some 50 years, planning this diabolical stuff and this great reset. And they now have seen COVID as the opportunity before, and still they were going to climate change as the opportunity, trying to convince everyone, raising generations that we're all going to die, and literally trying to convince people that we're all going to die. The world is going to literally end if we don't follow these sociopaths. So you'll hear them use the term stakeholder capitalism quite often. And once again, it's another mishmash term used by Marxists to try and, it's kind of like the sugar in the medicine, right? To try and make it go down a little easier. So they give things these crazy names. There's nothing capitalist about stakeholder capitalism. Okay, what they're doing, they want to take these social justice metrics which they create, by the way. So they create a litany of metrics that corporations, companies, private industry needs to abide by. And in those metrics are things like your carbon footprint, what your social justice score is, they give you all these ratings outside of just letting the business be a business. And what gets creepy, and this is where that guy was about to get on with the slippery slope, is that who determines these metrics? Well, the metrics are determined by, if you're familiar with, the Big Four. So the Big Four they're not determined solely by, but the WEF, and you'll hear Klaus talk about it in just a second, they consulted Ernst & Young, Deloitte, it's KPMG and PwC. These are the four largest accounting firms on the globe, all right, on Earth. There's no accounting firm bigger than those four, all right? And basically they called these guys in, and every nightmare, every movie you've ever seen about evil, diabolical plots is what this amounts to, okay? So they all get together, only difference is it wasn't in the dead of night, right? They do this at Davos once a year, and so they get together and they come up with these metrics. So Do we really even know what these metrics are yet? No, we don't. But they come up with these metrics and they plan to implement these. So companies will no longer be focused on just growing the business, hiring more employees, managing costs and building profit for their shareholders. That's how we've always been, right? If you've got stake in the game, if you've got real stake in the game, a skin in the game, I should say, then you know what? They're looking out for you. The idea is that, we all make money together. That's the idea. And in stakeholder capitalism, everybody's engaged. So what they're basically saying is the entire world community, international community, is a stakeholder in these companies, and that there will be an international tribunal. That I forget what he calls it. I'm going to show you the him say it himself in a moment. It's like the World Economic, some international business tribunal or so. I forget what it was, but anyway, they're going to have this big global council. Basically, I mean, this is like out of Star Wars, where of the evil emperor, and they're going to have that council make decisions as to whether or not a company may exist or not exist based on their metric score for their social metrics. All right, so I want to go ahead and play this clip of Klaus for you so that you can get from him exactly what I'm saying. And I added some subtitles in just for the sake of it, because I just wanted to help you follow along with exactly where the creepy parts are. Right. So that's that. And now let's go. Let's go ahead and grab the clip.
I think we are moving from the priority of short-term shareholder profit maximization to a world which is characterized much more by stakeholder responsibility. What we have to do now, and what is very important, is to walk the talk. And walking the talk means not just to talk about stakeholder capitalism, but also to establish a framework of metrics which allow everybody to see that a company is performing according to the ESG criteria. So the International Business Council of the World Economic Forum has undertaken the task, together with the 4 big audit companies, to develop such a comprehensive system which allows not only a reporting process where the companies can be really measured, but which allows also to see progress companies are making, similar to the financial reporting system.
Yeah, it's not similar to the financial reporting system at all, actually. And what they're asking, if you hear him talk, right, these ESGs, right, that's another buzzword for these guys, and the great buzz an acronym for environmental, social, and governmental standards. What the heck is a governmental standard? And how on earth, would an international tribunal that's going to do this be chosen? So the reason why I wanted to cover this particular topic is because I'm trying to make people aware of the terminology that these people use. Now, we're going to be putting out a video soon about some of the ridiculous goals that they have. And when I say ridiculous, it's not that they're things that nobody else wants, right? Like if you want, I don't know many people who don't want to, do good for the environment and don't want to, don't want everybody to get along and be equal and all these things. What makes what this is, though, is a rebranding of Marxism, right? So it's not pure socialism or pure Marxism. What they're planning, it basically, they sugar sweetened it to try and make it palatable. They've learned with all of the attempts of Marxism that have failed, and they sat back and watched and realized, okay, we're never going to get everybody on board unless, we go straight to the gulag system, right? We're never going to get everybody on board with this unless we somehow make it palatable. So they're trying to design this in a way where, with things like universal basic income, but yet you can still work. And companies, the idea is you still wake up in the morning, you still go to work, you can still go on vacation, you can still do these things. It's just you do it under their control. That all of these things, the hotel you stay at is under their control. The company you work for is under their control. Now, there's big money in this for the companies, by the way. Okay. So, which explains, I don't know about you, but I work for a fairly large company, and it always baffled me how woke they were. It always baffled me that they were so, so, look, we had a training not long ago where, they're literally in the video of the training. There's like dudes putting on mascara and like, I mean, it was really weird stuff. It had nothing to do with our industry. Nothing. Just like all this stuff has nothing to do. A lot of this CRT, the critical theory stuff. They do it in like language arts classes, right? Like this stuff has no place in these arenas, but they're putting it everywhere. And you're like, why would a company do this? Why would schools do this? Why? They're all under this new system, and they all know it's coming. All right, and this is it. They're trying to get in compliance because, like any company, they want to survive and they want to they want to continue to make money. And if they don't comply with this, there's a big difference between left and right politicians in this sense, right? Companies fear left politicians. They don't fear right politicians, because on the right you've got this hodgepodge mix of, and by the way, they shouldn't fear any politician, right? But like on the right, you've got this hodgepodge of beliefs where not many people believe that it's the right thing to do to start forcing companies to do X, Y, or Z. So, but on the left they do, and when the left takes power, the companies are like, all right, you know what? Like these guys are going to act like they're going to start to really come down on us through regulation, through whatever. We need to comply. We need to get on board with whatever program it is that they're asking us to do. And when this reset comes to town, believe me, all of these CEOs are well aware of what the Great Reset is. Believe you me. All right. And most of our citizens should be aware, because there was a day where you could get away with saying stuff like this is conspiracy theory, but they're out in the open now. Right? These aren't like quiet meetings in some offshore island. Like they're coming out with this stuff. I'm finding this video very easily. If you go to World Economic Forum, you can see the breakdown. They published a manifesto, which is just the creepiest thing ever. I encourage you to look up the Davos Manifesto, DAVOS, and go just check it out. So again, it's written in such a way where those that have already been indoctrinated, that think the world is going to end in every 12 years, and they think the climate is the most crucial thing, and they tie it to everything from national security to all of that madness. For those generations that have been indoctrinated into that madness from birth, all right, this stuff, when you read it, it all makes perfect sense to them. They can't understand why you wouldn't be on board with this, because they have no framework to understand the totalitarian nature of things. And that's a big deal, right? And we got Mern M here. So this is a very scary topic, especially coming off COVID 2020. So many are credit hurt from that. Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, Mern, COVID was the trigger for them, and they say it all the time. I play clips on it all the time. Justin Trudeau, a bunch of these guys will talk about it. They all mention reset. Even Biden, during his State of the Union speech, brought up that we need a reset when he was talking about COVID. If you guys haven't gotten it, if you didn't get a chance to see that from Biden, I actually have it. I can play it for you. Let me see what I got here. Because when Biden says this now, and this is why I think terms like this capitalism, stakeholder capitalism, I want you to understand these terms, because they come up. Just like most people heard this comment coming up from Biden and did not think Great Reset, because they're not aware of what's going on, how it works, what the context is. But when I heard him talking about COVID and then say we need a reset, clearly I knew immediately what he was referring to. All right. Build Back Better, that's a global thing. That's not a Biden plan. That's a global thing. It's an international plan. All right. In a previous video, in that one with the music behind it we recently put out, you can hear the mayor of London mention it, that Build Back Better it's a new normal. right? This is their reset. This is their reset. But let's hear Biden give us the old reset.
You know, we've lost so much in COVID-19. Time with one another. The worst of all, the loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset.
Right? So when he said that, it flew right past most people. It didn't fly past me. I immediately was going for the edit, marking the timestamp so I could go back and I can make sure I had that on file. Because when you tell people just out front, like, dude, Biden mentions the reset himself in his State of the Union, they go, get out of here. If you don't have it handy to bust them open and be like, yeah, here it is, then yeah, that's what, they're going to walk away thinking you're full of it. So I try to keep this stuff handy so that people can hear it. We played the clip of that parliament member in Ukraine talking about we're a part of the New World Order. Like, that stuff is creepy. That stuff is creepy, right? And you know what? I'll play it again for you. You're going to give it a second to start because it has it was recorded, so it takes a second. Give me a second.
The democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
For the rest of us that aren't Ukrainians, I think the world, quite frankly, Kira, is surprised by the will of the Ukrainian people to stand up and fight. Are you?
Well, I'm not surprised. We have been fighting Putin for the last 8 years, and we had 3 revolutions in our country when we did not agree with what was going on with the direction of where we're moving in. But right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
Okay, so that's she didn't misspeak there. She wasn't generically saying that. She wasn't generically saying New World Order. Like, we don't mean it that way. We mean it this way. She's in their parliament. She knows what that is. Great Reset uses this term all the time. A lot of these pieces are coming together for me personally because I don't know about you guys. But and even on the channel, we had stayed away from Illuminati, Freemason, QAnon, all these different things. We stayed away from them because I try not to get into. I try not to go down. I'm not trying to take people down rabbit holes, right? That's the thing. I'm not trying to take people down rabbit holes. I don't mind. I don't mind discussing something, but like, I don't want to talk about something unless I absolutely know that it's going on. Right. And not that I'm pretty sure it's going on, not that the evidence kind of looks like it's going on, but that I know it's going on. And with the Great Reset, we know what's going on. And they use the New World Order terminology all the time. So that kind of checks the New World Order box. Right. So for those, as I sit here and go, well, I don't know, what's the difference between New World Order? What's the difference between Illuminati and this? Well, New World Order now is falling right into the WEF category for the World Economic Forum and this Great Reset, right? Because they use the terminology all the time. I already did a video with an unpopular position on Ukraine. I don't want to hear these clowns being like, oh, you're just a stooge for Putin and blah, blah, blah. Like, you can't have an opinion that's honest without being a stooge for Putin. Because the reality of the matter is there are no, and I said this before, there's no good guys in this conflict in Ukraine. There are no good guys, only victims. That's it. I pray for the people of Ukraine because they're in the middle of this. They're another group of innocent people getting stomped by the elites as they play their games. And right now, Putin is on the target list of NATO and this New World, this Great Reset, as we know, because Soros is involved now. When's the last time you heard Soros jump in and start, urging action against another world leader like this? Right. But he's out there vocal about it. NATO needs to go in and NATO needs to take out Putin. Why, George? Why? Like, what made this such a big deal to Soros? Because to Soros, Putin is a roadblock to the Great Reset, as is Xi Jinping. As is, by the way, India is not on board either. And when it, a lot of people don't realize this, but there was a UN Council meeting where people were voting on whether or not to condemn Russia, and some interesting countries abstained. Israel was one of them. All right, when the day the U.S. cannot get Israel, and here's why. All right, here's what's going on. all right, and this is my take on it anyway, is that they're not really sure where world leadership is going, right? United States hegemony is not a guarantee anymore. It used to be, that's it. U.S. is the leader of the world. It is what it is. That's not such an easy thing to say anymore. So countries like Israel, India, Russia included, like Russia has a natural alliance with China from a mutual benefit piece. But like, as far as the rest of the world who are looking out and saying, all right, who's going to be running this show in the next 50 years, for the next 20, 30, whatever it is. And they're not so sure that it's going to be the United States. And so they're holding back. And they're saying, we're going to wait this one out. We're going to wait this one out. They watched what happened in the 2020 elections, okay? They watched that, and they're watching what happens now. And believe me, they don't need to watch the prime minister of Israel and the leaders in these other nations do not need to watch the Patriot think tank to understand what this Great Reset is all about. They're very, very in tune to what this is. And right now, what they're seeing is that there's a good chance that it could actually become a reality. And with that, everybody's backing off, which is why that last video we did on modern monetary theory, that's why that was such a big deal, because that entire theory is based on the concept that the United States will be the world reserve currency. But that is not a guarantee. So it's important for everyone to know that that's not a guarantee. Not only is it not a guarantee because our currency is getting so weak and they've mismanaged it so badly, hence the inflation and everything else, but the debt itself, at any moment, a nation with far less debt and more stable economy can turn around and start making a position for the world reserve currency. And they may not get the whole world to buy in, but they may get the big players to buy in. And if they do that, we're screwed. So this is why, and now I'm going to turn this right now over to the solution, because I don't like to spend all day just yapping about what our problems are, right? I think you've got a good feel for what a stakeholder economy is. They basically want companies, businesses, and anyone monetized to be accountable to the world. And when I say to the world, I mean to them. All right. So that's what the stakeholder economy is. Now, what's the solution? The solution is Article 5. Now, to those who are new to the channel, or maybe you jumped on, maybe you just recently got on while we started doing the Great Reset pieces and stuff like that, maybe that's the case. So if it is, I want you to understand this, okay? In our Constitution, all right, the founders put in one very, very, very clever safeguard, a fail-safe, to make sure, because they knew. And as Madison said in his September 15th, 1787 notes, which you could find online, speaking about George Mason, saying that he verily believed that the government would grow to a point of tyranny. That it was not a matter, basically saying it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Right? And so as a result, when they gave the first draft of the Constitution, Mason pushed back for a variety of reasons. No Bill of Rights was another one. But one of them was Article 5. He didn't like the idea that only the federal government could propose amendments to the Constitution. Because he understood, as did everyone else, as they ended up passing this without even debate, he understood that if Congress were the only one to be able to propose amendments, who would put a check on Congress? Because they certainly would not propose amendments that would usurp their own authority. So then they added in the convention option, and the convention option to propose amendments works almost the same way as the original method, which is the 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate will vote, and if they agree 2/3 and 2/3 on the language of the amendments, they give it to the states. 38 states, supermajority of 3/4, which is 38, will have to ratify it, and then it becomes constitution. Every amendment's been done that way because everybody's been in agreement with every amendment that's come in. All branches of government have been in agreement. But this is a unique situation. And this clause, this convention option was put in for this reason. And so 2/3 of the states will pass resolutions. We have 18 that have already passed them. And I guarantee you at least 2 more, probably 4 to 5 more this year. And more than that, if you guys get to your state legislators and start yapping on them. Because here's the thing, right? The federal government gets no say in these proposals. So they have to be on the same topics, and they are. All 18 are on term limits for all government officials. That's one of the topics, okay? So, and that's all government officials. So if someone turns to you and says, oh, well, we have term limits, they're elections. No, we don't elect the deep state. We don't elect SCOTUS. We don't elect any of these people. Okay, so that's that. Second one is fiscal restraints. This is the key one for the Great Reset. Okay, this is the key one for the Great Reset because they need modern monetary theory. Okay, if we balance our budget, which is likely what would come out of it, okay, if we balance our budget or pass a balanced budget amendment, I should say, there's no way modern monetary theory can go because it requires deficits. It requires deficit spending. If you don't know much about monetary theory, go back to the last video we did. We go through the whole thing. But the bottom line is without that, if with a strong dollar, okay, which is what will happen, right? So yeah, we probably can't go back to the gold standard, but maybe we could in the long term once we get it under control and pay our debt, but it's going to take a long time to pay the debt that we've accrued. But once we've done that, right, once we get on the path of paying down that debt, the dollar becomes strong. Everybody's bank account begins to become more wealthy. Okay, everybody's bank account now can purchase more than what it purchased before. So if this World Economic Forum at that point were to try to say, hey, you know what, we're going to come up with a new currency as the world reserve, they won't be able to because there will be no dollar anywhere near the strength of the United States dollar. There will be none. All right, and that's an important point to make. Now, the last part that the last topic for these proposed amendments is government overreach. Okay, so this helps us in a few ways. Number one, think removal of regulatory agencies. All right, that these issues will then be regulated on the state level. So no more Department of Education. All right. So what does that mean? Number one, it means our education goes back to the states, right? Locally, again. No more of these board members who are passing all these ridiculous rules and masking our children for no reason because there's money from the federal government involved. Like this whole bribery of the states to let the government take control of our local education will stop. You know what that means? That means there's no more CRT in your classrooms. That means the poster that I saw on my daughter took a picture of it because she's that kind of patriot. It says "Welcome to the party," and it's got like the top murderers of the 20th century all chilling on this poster. Mao Zedong is like playing a DJ. If you Google it, you'll see it. You'll find it. They have this hanging in a sophomore classroom. I mean, that stuff is all gone. It's all over, okay? So, and how do we do this? How do we get this done, guys, right? So on our website, we painstakingly, I personally did all the data entry for these sections of the website. I took every single resolution that's been passed so far by states and organized them by state. So you can go, you can find your state, you can click on that. There's a link there to sign the petition. What does that do? It takes you over to Cause Action's website, conventionofstates.com, who are the ones who really spearhead this whole movement. We're latecomers to it. Okay, these guys are the ones who are, getting the grassroots together, organizing people. Grassroots are showing up at state legislature offices and talking to these people. I know because I hear the state legislators talking about it when I watch the debates. All the power in this process is with the state legislature. Not even the governor gets a say. The legislature picks the delegates. They pass the resolution first. Then they choose the delegates. And there can be as many delegates as any given state wants, but every state gets one vote. Okay, as with every convention ever held in U.S. history, every state gets one vote. All right, so it's not like West Virginia gets usurped by California, New York, or any of that. Rhode Island has the same voting power that California does. Okay, Now, state legislatures pick the delegates go to the convention, they sit down, they got the topics in front of them, they start ironing out the language of the amendments. Then the debate goes on. This can take months, okay? The debate goes on as it should take months. This should be carefully thought out, and there should be, obviously we're going to have some very educated people in these rooms. Once they figure out the language for the amendments, then they take it back to their states. And just like in the original process, now the only difference between the two is that now the convention is proposing the amendments as opposed to Congress. So now they give it back to the states, and it requires 38 states to amend. So we'll be well into the 20s before this legislative session is out. And the only reason it's only in the 20s is because so many people don't understand how powerful this tool is. And we started screaming this from the rafters some time ago, and we're going to continue to scream it from the rafters because no outside force, no international communal or tribunal or any of this stuff, none of them can have any play against us. Okay, none of them. If we have if our control of the country is pushed to the states, right? So I want to take a look at some of these comments here. I see them coming up. So Mom M, right? If Soros is speaking up, always look deeper. Always. Whenever Soros gets, and this is something that you should know about Convention of States as well, is that the Common Cause, which is a heavily funded George Soros organization, had put out a petition a few years back, all right, and got like 250 signatures on it from different organizations. Some classic names that you'll probably recognize are the Daily Kos, Media Matters, Move On. These types of organizations all signed this petition to stop a convention of states because they know, right? They know how dangerous this is for them. For them. Because it's game over. It's 100 years almost, 70 years of work right down the drain. Right down the drain. And we all talk, we're all mad about the same things, folks. We all get mad about the same things. But none of us are talking about how we're going to fix it. Right? I don't care. Someone give me the whole life history of the Rothschilds going back to when I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I know the Rothschilds are out there. I know they're bad people. If we take back the United States, they're just another rich family. It doesn't matter if you're worth 20 billion or 20 trillion. You're just all you have is money. That's it. There's only a certain amount of power that comes with money. Right? There's only a certain amount of power. Hey, we got someone from the USSR on. How we doing, Panlor Povic? Panlor Povic. I don't know if it's one word or what, but how we doing? Welcome to the tank. And let me see here. So here's one. You can buy a brand new 3-bedroom apartment in Bulgaria for $20,000. Well, that tells you the difference of not for long as our money becomes worthless. How you doing, Sheila? I see you out there. So, look, I want to hit home with this because I want people that are watching this to take the step, okay? When you're done with this video, all right, stick with me, but when we're done with this video, make the step, go over to the website. You'll see the petition button there. It'll take you right to cause. And honestly, if you're in a state that's hot right now, if you're in a state where legislation is about to, get voted on soon, get on that. Not only because when you sign the petition, they're gonna send a letter to your legislator, your local legislator, for you on your behalf. Okay, but get on that because and register for the register for cause because they'll call you and they'll tell you how you can get active. All right, and depending on how much time you have is what you give. Like some people, you could just be a social media warrior. I almost said social justice warrior. That would have been brutal, but a social media warrior. Or maybe you do have some more time on your hands. Maybe you can help organize and get these petitions going or these letters going and things of that. There's a lot that you can do, and even if you're not in a state that's hot right now, you can still participate. Look, if everybody starts blowing this up all over the internet, all right, because there's naysayers out there who are scared into a tactic, or who's scared by a tactic to make them believe that the runaway convention is dangerous. That's why I put it into our intro, because it really is a tactic to make people believe this. There's the same like 5 or 10 articles out there, God knows I've read them all like 20 times, that want to scare you into thinking that the original Constitutional Convention was a runaway convention, therefore any convention for amendments would be a runaway convention. Runaway meaning they were just supposed to amend the Articles of Confederation, which they weren't. Okay, but this is what they're saying to people, and they're buying it. And there's conservatives out there buying it. God knows what kind of world we live in when the John Birch Society is aligned with George Soros. Like, this is the world we live in right now. All right. So, but in the end, you need to see through that. Our founders did not write a brilliant document, but this one part they got all wrong. They knew exactly what they were doing. And believe me when I tell you, if we do nothing, if we choose to sit and debate this for the next, 5 years, they expect this to be fully implemented by 2030. All right, 2030. That's not a lot of time. It's not like this is a plan for the grand future, right? Klaus Schwab is going to kick over any day now, right? He ain't got 50 years left in him. So in the end, they're trying to get, and Lord knows Soros is minute to minute right now. There's no way that they're going to wait on this any longer. They see COVID-19 as their opportunity, and they're going after it. And what makes me crazy is that we could be calling the convention, theoretically, we could be calling it next summer. If everybody shared this, everybody understood it. I want you to understand it too. I don't want you to just go throwing it around. There's great videos on our website. There's great videos on Convention of States website. They'll tell you there's only one argument against it, and they'll explain to you in detail using historical data, Madison's notes, Federalist Papers, like real data. Not giving you some Freedom Society article, right? And they'll give you this data so that you can go ahead and look at it, see the history of it, and know that it's the path. And once you know that, stop complaining about it and go out and do it. Go out and do it. Who's this right here? I don't know if this is a rhetorical question or not. What makes George Soros so bad? I'm gonna go ahead and a limb and say you're serious about that question. So I'll give you a couple of things. First of all, it's the Great Reset. So he is. We sit here and act like Klaus Schwab is the main man for the Great Reset. Soros is the one making all this happen. All right, him and his Open Society Foundation and Soros Fund Management have been funding bizarre, psychotic, globalist causes forever. The man was celebrated in the media for almost destroying the pound, the British pound. Okay, he made billions off of that, and they acted like he did that as just strictly a fiscal play, and that it was a brilliant fiscal play. He had like 200 organizations sell out the pound, so that it created the illusion that there was a sell-off of the British pound, and he didn't do this. He made the money on it, but that's not why he did it, to crush the pound, because England did not want to go with the euro. That's the devil right there. All right, and then when it almost crashed, and he realized it wasn't going to fully crash, he started buying it all up, and then it gained its value back, and he made billions. There's a lot wrong with George Soros. He's one of the creepiest human beings on the planet. I will tell you, the more I look into Klaus Schwab, he's close. I mean, he does come off like a real life James Bond villain. And I feel bad for the innocent people of Germany that the next psychopath to come down the line has to have a super strong German accent, but it is what it is. It is what it is. If I lived in Germany, I'd be like, really? Like, really? This is how it's got to be. You couldn't be Swedish or something, But for real. So, but yeah, Soros. Everything about Soros is wrong. And now, so Kronos. I could tell you what's wrong with being leftist. Clearly, I'm guessing you're on the left. I'm guessing. So there's nothing wrong with being a liberal. Okay, liberals, right? Old school Democrats, the Kennedy type of Democrat. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, because yeah, we have differences of opinion on issues, right? I consider myself to be conservative, but I'm not particularly fond of Republicans either. But in the end, I can respect liberals. Okay, people like Bill Maher, right? Who I agree with nothing. I agree with absolutely nothing with Bill Maher. All right, if you know who Bill Maher is, he's the he has the show. What it used to be Politically Incorrect. Now it's Real Time with Bill Maher, I think. But Bill Maher. But like, I don't agree with him on anything politically. Nothing. All right. But even he looks at leftists and goes, "Whoa, like, what's wrong with you people?" Like the culture that they're promoting. All right. Diversity, not unity, diversity. All right. What's the difference between the two? Manufactured diversity requires discrimination. It requires it. It's not something that's it's a byproduct of trying to when you tell companies you have to have this many black people, this many Asians, this many white people, this many, you have to discriminate. In every one of those scenarios is racial discrimination, and that is heavily promoted by the left, by leftists. All right, by Marxists. All right, defining everyone by their race as if it's the most important thing in someone's identity or by their gender. All right. This is Marxism. Okay. It's Marxism. Leftists are Marxists. I don't even want to say leftists anymore. They're Marxists. And there are so many things wrong with Marxism. I could make this video go on for 6 hours. All right. So I've been pulling up a lot of here. Let's see this one. Yeah. So saying exchange the rest of the dollar for the yuan. That's the Chinese currency, and I can tell you, China is definitely trying to make play to get their currency to be the world reserve. They're absolutely, now they're not there yet, so I'm not going to act like it's going to, like that's going to happen. But the point is, we have a lot of enemies out there. IMF wants to make its own. The International Monetary Fund wants to make its own digital currency. This would not be tied to any country. This would be an international currency. Easy to see that they would try to make that the world reserve. The point of the matter is, no matter what, there's a bunch of different ways this scenario can go, but the way to fix it is the same. And that's what we need to be focused on, how to fix it, right? So in essence, what we need to do is get to the website, all right? So it's www.thepatriotthinktank.com. All right. Subscribe to our channels. I don't know which one you're watching on right now, if it's Twitch or if it's or if it's YouTube or Twitch. You're only going to get our live broadcasts, of course. But that being said, make sure you subscribe. If you're on Twitch, I would highly recommend checking either YouTube or Facebook and subscribing there. But get to the website, sign the petition, get yourself involved. Get involved. State legislators, folks, I want to tell you, a lot of people look at state legislators like they're the same thing as federal legislators. They are not. I can tell you this. I've sat down and watched endless hours of debate on the floor of these states who are working on these resolutions, and I can tell you the candid nature of what these people come out with. Okay, and when you listen to state legislators on the floor, they're saying things like, look, one of my constituents came to my office today and he said, blah, 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 blah. I got a call from one of my constituents today. I got an email from one of my constituents today. He said X, Y, and Z. You will never hear that ever from a federal on the floor of the House or Senate of the federal Congress. You will never hear that. You hear it all the time in state legislators. All right. When grassroots goes in there and makes their appeals and tries to sway opinion and educate people, they're not screaming at people. It's a completely cool dialogue. Right? These people are coming up there acknowledging some of them, saying, look, talking to their peers saying, we're guilty too. We've accepted this federal money. We allowed ourselves to be bribed. Right? So, state legislatures are the way to go. If you have legislators that will not pass it, then get them out. It's easier to get them out as well. Get them out. That's how the game works. But I definitely want, I'm going to go ahead and cut this a little bit short, only because I have a pork butt, 2 chickens, and a rack of ribs in a smoker right now, dying for attention. So I'm going to go down and check that out. I set it all up before the cast started, so I know it's good. But at the same time, I want to make sure I don't ruin it. But what do we got here? Let's check one more thing out here. So, how do things like universal healthcare hurt the country? They hurt the country because they bankrupted. That's why. And they greatly lessen the quality of care. There's a reason why everyone in these countries that have universal healthcare, in particular Canada, come here when it hits the fan. When it's serious, they come here because the quality of care is just 10 times better. Because when everybody pays, when it's free for everybody, it belongs to nobody, and it gets run like garbage, and that's why. All right, so there's the answer to that. But on the end, I do appreciate you, Kronos. I appreciate you, Sheila, and who else we got here? Sussy, Mom M, you guys have been great. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your engagement. And anyone else, who's mixed up in here, I'm looking at 3 different platforms. So anyone else who's mixed up in here, I appreciate you. But again, the note that you should leave, the 2 things you should walk away from this video with is 1, understand what stakeholder capitalism is, and understand when you hear people talking about it, because they may not use the term, but they'll explain it. And they'll talk about it. They'll talk about it in a longer form. Know what it is. Be able to identify it. When you hear, if you hear somebody like Biden say it, to hold on to that, because you're trying to make a case to someone else in the future. You want to make sure that you have ammunition, because we got to try and get as many people on board as is humanly possible, right? And that's the point that I'm making. So, other than that, folks, I just want to say I appreciate you. If there's any questions, any further comments, you can always reach us at info@thepatriotthinktank.com via email, or just comment below, and I can assure you that we will respond to the comments. I'm very good about getting the comments. So other than that, until next time, we'll have another topic of Great Reset video coming out shortly. So once that's ready to go, I will let you know. And again, my apologies for all the live invites that didn't pan out. We're staying with our old software now for the near future to make sure that doesn't happen again. All right. Until then, I'm out.
And like that,